Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Warren from Pattern Journal, and we are back with another preview discussion. This time, we're going to cover the Las Vegas Open previews from yesterday, and they covered 6 of the systems that are published by GW. This time, it was around 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Horus Heresy, Warcry, Kill Team, and of course, Death Gorge. Now, before the previews happen, if you have seen some of my tweets, I'm not really familiar with what's going on in Warcry and with Warhammer Underworlds, so the models and the units and stuff that they previewed for those two systems, the supplemental games, I have really no comment on that other than the ones for Warcry. They tie in with the main armies for Age of Sigmar, and I thought they looked cool. Uh, there's some new Lumineth and stuff, and and some new what is it? Some Night Haunt. Yes, some new Night Haunt, some new Lumineth, and the models have an interesting theme to them, and they look pretty good. There's some really good lore as well for the ones for the Night Haunt. So it's it's chill stuff. Death Gorge, really again, it's way too specialist a game, as far as I'm concerned, and I can't really comment on what it means or whatever is going on with that. So I'll pass on that. So, anyways, we're gonna start a discussion with the first of the major ones, which is Age of Sigmar, and this was actually kind of like this is really unexpected. I have to say, as I'm concerned. This is a new character that's going to be coming for the Daughters of Cain faction for the Order Grand Alliance. Grethusa the Croneseer. Now, her background is that she is a character that is sort of opposed to Marathi. Marathi is like the overall god of the Daughters of Cain. When the new mortal realms were formed, and Slanash's prison was breaking, and Marathi and some of the other elven gods they stole souls from Slaanesh that they had gobbled up. They, meaning Slaanesh, had gobbled up during the end times after the destruction of the old world. Marathi took some souls and she refashioned them into the Daughters of Cain, which you can see reflected with some of the new units that the faction got, such as the Witch Elves and the Sisters and the Blood Sisters and the Medusa and all those other things. The Kinnari, that's what she did. But Grethusa here, she is someone that's opposed to Marathi because she is one of the ones who believe that Marathi doesn't represent the will of Cain, and her goals are not what the god wants to happen. So she is. There's a bit in the army book of Daughters of Cain that has some relevant paragraphs, and we've seen that Marathi has destroyed some of the high queens and other like important characters that have tried to oppose her, but that's always been tied to like how much power she directly has over them because they're specifically under her thrall via all the cauldrons and stuff that she has fashioned for herself. It's her means of control over her people. But Krethusa, her introduction, it signals a very different direction for Daughters of Cain, and I believe that this was also going to be a tie-in that's going to happen down the line whenever they update the range with the Umbernet, which are the Shadow Elves, and they're supposed to be tied with Malarian, who is Malekith, Marathi's son from the old world. He fused with his dragon at the end of the old world, and he's also an elven god now, but we haven't seen anything from him really for the last like 8 years, 9 years, whatever it's been since AOS has come out. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on with the lore, but the model itself, I think I really like this model. It has a lot of really great visual, interesting points, but I do have to say that if you look at the model from a distance, you can't really tell where her head is. Like you're thinking it's at the top, just below that standard, but then you're like okay, so maybe that's hair. But lower than that, so you have to look, and it's not until like you really like look much closer that it's apparent. Like her face is covered with her hair, so that kind of like takes away from the model. I think. Um, I guess it fits the theme that she's a seer, and there's a whole thing with the ravens and Odin and loss of the eye and whatnot stuff. That's very typical, but I think overall this is a very cool looking model. It stands out in stark contrast against the entire Daughters of Cain range, and I think that's a great point. Um, how she fits into the whole thing narratively, we don't know yet, but that's something to expect down the line. We do know, however, that she's gonna be coming in this box set for Dawnbringers, which is one of the ongoing campaigns right now. Crethusa's Crone Host, which is gonna be coming with 10 Sisters of Slaughter and 10 of these Doomfire Warlocks, I believe they're called. I may have like a box or two of these that are unbuilt, like ages back, that I picked up when Cities of Sigmar was announced as a faction in AOS 2.0, and my old LGS had a few boxes of old stuff, and they're one of the ones I picked up. Um, can't really say I'm excited about another big box like this, because we saw for the previous book, Dawnbringers 4, that there was Ionos Cryptborn, there was Beltanos, Herald of Kurnoth, whatever he's called. They're also coming in big boxes like this. So gonna wait whenever she's available by herself, because I kind of don't want to get this box. Plus it's gonna be expensive anyway, so I'm fine waiting. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Uh, and the paint job really fits with all these free units here. So that's the name of the book that's coming next. Dawnbringers Book 5, Shadow of the Crone. She's gonna be an ally for Sigmar's forces, because Daughters of Cain, they're on the Order of Grand Alliance. So well, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's like a 100% alliance thing actually in the lore. Especially since if other big threats didn't exist, Barathi would be facing Sigmar's warriors across the realm. So it's whatever. But either way, Crethusa is going to be helping Sigmar's forces during their crusade, and that's really all I know. I'm not really following the lore for Age of Sigmar for a long time now, and certainly not with whatever's going on with Dawnbringers. So, anyhow, moving on. So, moving on to Kill Team. So we saw these. We saw the Night Lords Kill Team last month, I believe, or it was back in November at one of the reveals, and amazing kit. But we didn't know exactly when they would be coming or how they were going to be coming. But we do know now, because they're going to be coming in a box set along with these guys, Mandrakes. So they are Mandrakes are a Drakari unit that used to be in Resin. I mean, it's still available in Resin, I believe. Although at this point, I don't think there's going to be any kits to get. And they are one of the oldest units in the range. Certainly deserved, a refresh. And this one is amazing. Like what they did with the Night Lords, each model here has a lot of personality to it, even though they don't look too flashy as compared to Night Lords, because the Night Lords, there's a much more strong differential aesthetic to each guy, because each guy is doing a different thing, and they can personalize the armor, different weapons and whatnot. But with these Mandrakes, while they are all of them, they have like a green flame in one hand and a long bladed weapon in the other. The dynamic poses, I think, really sell what's going on here, and it's all plastic. I'm sure people can customize stuff to their heart's content here. And there's also this big guy in the bottom here, bottom right. Um, you know, probably a unit leader or something. I haven't read the article itself, so pretty good. The rumors were strong for Mandrakes, and we are getting these guys now, and it's going to be Night Lords versus the Mandrakes, and there's going to be a Generatorium terrain piece as well. I forgot to grab the image for that before I started the stream, but you know, it's going to be a nice little box. I think I'll definitely get it at some point, because I do want the Night Lords. I do want these guys, and there's going to be so many options in both the kits. So we'll see what happens with that whenever it's released. Shouldn't be too long, probably like next month, I think, that they're gonna come out. The current one, the Scouts versus the Eldar Striking Scorpions, that, excuse me, that box is already out. This one should be getting coming in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. Not too long. And with that, we're gonna move on once again, and we're gonna move on to one of the most exciting releases, and I would say kind of unexpected as well, because I don't think anyone had on their bingo card that the Crude were gonna get a redone, a refresh, so to speak. And it seems that GW has gone all out on this. The top codex is gonna come sometime in late spring, early summer. There's like 2 or 3 codices ahead of it, but this is like fantastic stuff. So the Crude, I believe, the Carnivore Squad, I believe it was redone for a kill team a while back, but that's not all that's coming, because we're also getting this guy, a new Flesh Shaper, who's one of the classic units that they've had for like the longest while. There's so much good stuff that's happening. It's an amazing dynamic pose. He's got a variety of weapons, so there's lots of different things you can do here. And they're wearing the face mask and the coiled head. It's done really well. The paint job, as always, the heavy metal team, banger. Here's another HQ they're getting. They're getting 2 HQs that we know of so far. This guy is a warshiper, so he's like more on the military. He's more on the leadership side as a warrior. And just again, look at the model. So many different weapons. You get options in the kit. Options are always good. I keep saying that so many times, again and again. And just look at the model. Different type of tactical rock, different usage of the tactical rock, and the guy's like, yes, let's go charge. It's like the pose kind of reminds me of the scene from the Two Towers when the orcs sent by Saruman, they're about to attack the keep, and the orc leader that's in charge, and he's like puts up his sword and he's like, "Argh!" and they all surge forward. So it's like it's that kind of pose. Really great stuff. Who talks Rampagers? So kind of like a cavalry unit, it seems. And just look at it. Each guy is so different. Although I have to say, the first guy, he looks so comical. It's like something out of a cartoon. The way he's running. I do wonder about those contact points with the base, because they're gonna be real pain to glue. So like what I did with my blood crushers for corn demons, I added some rocks to the base extra. So wherever they're about to touch, like you look at the first 2 guys, there's just enough gap that it can slip like a piece or 2 of rock to the base to give them an extra contact point and to hold them up so they're stable. The other guy I'm not so sure about. Maybe you have to maybe I just gotta pin him or something for the extra weight. But it should be interesting, or maybe use magnets or something. But I think it's done really well. It's none of them have static poses. Like you look at some of the other infantry that's come out, like like the Outriders for Space Marines, they all have the same exact pose. Like yeah, I get it's bikes, and it's Space Marine on the bikes, so it's like they kind of have to conform a little bit, but there's such a distinctive lack of personality to those models. Whereas you look at these guys, and it's like they've gone all out. I've heard a lot of people say that it's very AOS style, the refresh that they've done for the Crude, and I have to agree. These look like there's a very strong like a modern sensibility with how dynamic the model looks, how the models are posed if they're like the they're mounted cavalry like this, and it looks really good. Like this is so far and above and beyond what you could have expected, not just in quality but also in like how much they've dropped. And this is number 4, so we go to number 5, and it's a Krutok Rider. Guy probably like some kind of like a heavy or like an elite section that with the big guns. There's a couple options that you can get, and you got some accoutrements and whatnot. There's a couple of head swaps that you can do as well, either with the closed mouth on the Crutox, or one just like. So that's also good. More options, and this is not the only thing, because these are the 5 units that they've said that are gonna come with the codex that they have previewed today, but there's also going to be more coming down the line. This is not the end of the refresh. You're going to be seeing a whole lot more, and I have to say that I'm really excited for where this is going. I don't have any interest in the Tau, and even if I did, I would probably just go like all out with the Tau themselves, not with any of the auxiliary factions. But if I was to, this thing, it's an all-out banger of a refresh. Like 9-10 units, maybe more, and it's like the biggest expansion of the Tau Codex since probably like forever, I believe. You know, because it's always usually always it's like a character here and there, a unit or two here and there, some new mech suit or whatever. Whenever they got the storm surges and all those units, so that was some interesting stuff. But again, amazing, very surprising. And these 5 units that you see here, they're all going to be coming in a launch box with the codex, and it's going to have a special edition of the said codex. So that's another important thing to keep in mind, that this is not a new codex that's going to come out, a new supplement or Codex Tau supplement fruit or whatever. This is all going to be part of the main codex. And given that this is happening and it is happening on such a big scale, I do not think that Vespids are going to get anything unless it's a kill team for the basic Vespid unit. Uh, that happens maybe this year, maybe next year, or in the next edition even. And as far as the Tau concerned, I believe they did preview a new ethereal a few weeks back. So that's what you got to look forward to. I don't expect more Tau stuff, but definitely there's going to be stuff happening for the crew. And finally, so what they did was they left the best for last, and that is Solar Auxilia for Horus Heresy. Now this was highly anticipated. The reveal for the army has been something that people have been waiting on for like almost 2 months now, if not more. And there were some rumblings that it was going to be Solar Auxilia because some of the resin stuff was running out of stock on the website and even in at Warhammer World, I believe itself. So people were like, "Yeah, it's going to be Solar Auxilia," and they were like, "What's going to happen? What's going to happen? We need to get this. This is the last thing that's pending for the previous roadmap," and all that stuff. And then yesterday, GW just like casually, they're like, "Okay, you guys wanted it, here you go," and then they just go all out. This was even a bigger deal than the Crude refresh, because not only is the launch of the army, the plastic that is, not only is that going to be coming accompanied by this big battle group you see with at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, but there's going to be so much more. And here's all the stuff. So this is the Solar Auxilia Las Rifle section, squad of 20 guys, and it's really amazing stuff. I really like the sculpts. I'm not familiar with the resin range. I play Heresy Blood Angels. That's what I'm building. That's what I'm working towards. I don't exactly have any interest in the Mortal Forces for the Heresy, but man, these look so amazing. And one of the greatest things about it is that you can get these guys and you can use them for 40k. Either use them as is, or you do some head swaps, and voila, you got a fairly unique looking 40k Imperial Guard regiment. And the cool thing is, these guys look to be on the same par as Cadians. They look sophisticated, and there's a certain like strong aesthetic to them, with the heavy armor that they seem to have, and with their helmets. So you can play them as is, or you can do some head swaps depending on what kind of regimen you want to do. But also, you know, it's like what prevents you from running these guys as is? They all have las rifles. 40k guard basic units. They have las rifles. There's a sergeant there. There's a banner there. There's a walks guy with a walks or something, and you do a little bit of conversion, and you know this is great. I could very well actually be doing that because my army that I want to build for a guard that I kind of dipped into a bit during 8th edition was that I want to do the Elysian drop troops. Now, Elysian drop troops, they used to be an all resin army, and a lot of those units, or most of those units, are not in production anymore. And, that's been a bit of a bummer. I did get some third party jump packs for them that fit the 35mm model, the guard model thing. But since then, in the years and during 9th edition, guard got a bit of refresh. They got new models and stuff, so my jump packs will probably not look good. So I'll have to probably get something new for them. But I can very well see these guys stepping in, because I really like these guys. They have a much better aesthetic than the basic Cadians do, and they seem to have like all these little things on their back and whatnot that kind of help sell that whole direction. So that's the last rifle section. Now we go to Lemanus Assault Tank. Now this thing, like, oof, a new a new Lehman Russ tank. That's again, probably not a lot of people have this on their bingo card either. Like I said, GW just casually dropped a huge army with 7 new units, and new units as in like it's all going to be plastic. So, but it's like most people I know, and even myself, I was expecting like 3 maybe 4 units that they'll drop on that are in plastic. There'll be a bit of a small launch, and then over the next like 2 years, 3 years, they'll slowly expand as they did with the legions. But as it turns out, this is a huge plastic release, not just at launch, but following on, just like with the crew. And tanks are a huge part of the mortal aesthetic with the guard regiments, and especially with the heresy, there was a lot more variety to the tanks with the basic armies and stuff, and this is all part of that. As you can see here, this tank is going to come with 4 different options: 3 for the main turret, and 2 for the thing on the guy with the guy on the back. The main weapon, there's 3 options, and the turret on top of the main gun, that's 2 options, and it's cool stuff. Like, looks really good. There's a lot of like with the paint job that they've done. It's like these guys have a lot of bling, and that kind of makes sense that they're meant to be solar auxilia. So it's like solar auxilia, specifically would be referring to units and regiments that are founded within the solar system. So their base of operations is within the solar system, and they're not, they're not from Cadia or from Mordia or Wastroya or Catachin or whatever. Here's another variant of the tank. This one is a strike tank, and I believe it's either this one, the strike tank, or the assault tank that's going to be available down the line. They previewed it, but it's going to be available down the line. Here we have a Dracosian. Apparently it's a transport. Looks amazing as hell. Like the hull profile, it looks really good. I'm a little bit confused as to what part of this makes it a transport, because there's no obvious exit and entry points on this. But again, like with the Chimera, you can kind of tell, and you can model it accordingly. But with this one, it's a little bit difficult for me to understand. So of course, that's all on me. But again, this looks amazing. As you can see, there's a bunch of different options with the pintle weapons. It looks so good. And here's the Ethon Heavy Sentinel. Now, this thing looks goofy. And a lot of people are like, there's no way this walks properly and it looks unrealistic and whatever. And for all that, it's like, it's the meme with James Franco. It's like first time, and it's like this is what a lot of people don't understand. The technology that the Imperium uses, the technology that the Adeptus Mechanicus builds for the Imperium and for themselves, a lot of it is not supposed to work. It's not realistic in any sense of the word, but it works because it's all about brute force. Like, you look at the Space Marine vehicles, you know, not the vehicles. You look at the flyers, like you look at the Storm Raven, you look at Thunderhawk, you look at the Stormbird. They're these huge boxy designs that there's no real aerodynamics as we would understand today, but they all work in the setting because one, it's all fictional, and second, because Imperium it just slaps on huge engines to these things and just makes them work. Like the repulsor, it works with all the wrap plating it has. It looks a bit funky, but it works. It's supposed to work within the confines of the setting. So it's whatever. This guy, it does look like his legs are a bit flimsy, but could also be that the center of gravity is a little lower, so it's not lower and maybe a bit of the back. And this guy, it's like the photograph has it on like a bit of a side profile. It's not full on. It's not back on. It's not from the back. It looks a bit from side. So, there's a little bit of dynamism in the photo itself beyond how the model is posed, and it works because it's meant to work. Billions of these were made during the Heresy, just like with the tanks, and everything works. And this thing, it does look goofy with all those because the top compartment is so big and probably I would say a little bit too slender. Like maybe it should have been a little bit extended towards the back. But it's a unique looking thing and it's a heavy sentinel. So, another reason why it doesn't really look like the regular sentinels that we know. Plus Solar Auxilia, they had link stuff. So it's whatever. And that brings us to these guys. And that brings us to these guys. Solar Auxilia Tactical Command section. So this is the command squad, so to speak. And like I said with the las rifle section, all of this, there's so much customization you can do to these guys, even within the confines of the 40k setting itself, with official GW bits. Whether you have the old ones or you have anything from the new ranges, there's so many different things you can do to customize them, make them a 40k army, or even within the heresy itself, and customize them differently if you don't like the look of their helmets and stuff. Because the helmets, they do convey a certain a hard image, they kind of look more like they're meant to be going into a bit of a harsh environment, so to speak. Excuse me. Harsh environment, so to speak. But I think it still looks good. Like that standard looks good, the walk sky looks good, the sergeant looks good, and the other guys, they also look good. And customize away. Nothing's stopping you. I think, and the great thing is that you can customize, and then you can also include them in your existing Legion armies as an allied detachment. So if you don't want to play Solar Auxilia full on, you can go that route as well. Again, I have to say, all of these models are amazing. So these are the more elite guys, Solar Auxilia Velitaris Storm section. It's interesting, how they differentiate this from the 40k armies. Like in 40k, the guard, they'll have squads, heavy weapon squad, troop squad, command squad, platoon squad, platoon command squad, so on and so forth. But the heresy, they've gone for this thing where they call them section instead, which implies that they're bigger. So it's like how in the heresy, legions operate on a far bigger scale. The chapters do post heresy, where they're all broken down to small squads. No squad is like more than 10 big, and so on and so forth, and the minimum size 5. Whereas in the Heresy, the Legions, a lot of the squads they start at 10, they go to 20. Some of the really elite ones, like the command squads or the veterans or the heavy weapon squads, those guys are 5 to 10. But again, these are the mortal forces, so big numbers, and that's the whole thing. Like with the box, with the last rifle section, it's 20 guys in a box. With this one, it's 10 guys in a box. So it's selling that this army is all about the numbers, as many numbers as they can push forward. And these guys, they're all armed with Volkites. So it's not even like heavy las rifle or anything, or plasma guns or melta guns. The typical elite weapons that we would know from 40k. These guys all have Volkite carbines. Again, like I said, I'm not familiar with how the auxilia functions in the Heresy. I've never looked at the rules or anything. I don't know what the force resin range is like. So looking at it as a complete outsider, I think this looks freaking amazing, man. Like this really helps sell that this is a heresy army. This is a heresy unit, and it's not just how the models are sculpted, what their aesthetic is, but it's also the weapons. That all forms this whole cohesive picture of the army. And our last unit here is going to be the Malkador heavy tank. Now, Malkadors, they're amazing, right? I believe they were debuted in Imperial Armor Book 3, Siege of Rax, which is like, that was the early 2000s era when Forge World was just pumping out lore content. They were pumping out all these amazing armies, from the context of that period, from like the late 90s, the very late 90s to the early 2000s, and pretty much I think going up to 2010, 11. I think the last book they did was The Doom of Mimera, which was an Eldar focused one, and they introduced one or two new aspect units. That was probably like in 2010, maybe 2011, something like that. I definitely missed that era of Forge World because the Imperial Armor books that were amazing. They had detailed army lists, army composition, and whatnot, and each book was different. We had books on Marines, we had books on Imperial Guard, on Eldar, on Tau, so much. A lot of what we know and understand of these armies, it came from those books because GW Main wasn't doing much beyond the occasional stuff in White Dwarf or the Index Astartes books. So, and the Malkador, I believe, like I said, I believe it debuted in Siege of Rax, and it's named for a very important heresy character, Malkador, and the Emperor's confidant. The like, he'd be like, if the Emperor is the Emperor, this guy is like chief advisor. It's named after him. And these tanks are big, so dominating. Big guns, that dorsal blade, that has on there. It looks freaking scary. There's one of the Limarosas too as well, on the assault tank, I believe. And so many guns, the tank, and it's a heavy tank. Great stuff. So this one and the Storm section, I believe those are the ones that are getting a delayed release. They won't be available at launch, but they did preview these, and they did say also that same as with the Crude, that there's a lot more coming. This is just a start of the plastic refresh, and overall, I do want to say that I find it amazing that GW is investing so much in the heresy with all the plastic ranges, with all the plastic stuff that they're doing, not just for the legions, but as you can see here with the auxilia as well, because like it shows that they have confidence in the longevity of the setting and their plans. They have huge plans, so much more stuff that's coming down the line. There's like for the legions, Reacher squads are up for discussion. The spoiler squads are for discussion. We know that we're getting command upgrades very soon for the legions, and now we have these guys in the mix. So more plastic stuff for them, new plastic stuff for them, more resin as well down the line. And my hope is that this success and this confidence in the heresy and the different armies, I hope that's reflected with the old world as well. And it's up to the fans to make the old world successful. GW is not going to do it on their own. As we saw today, when the excuse me, 1 second. As we saw today with the next set of reveals for the old world, it's going to be orcs and goblins. There's a lot of returning plastic. There's some returning metal, and if you look at the list of returning metal, it's a huge list. And I know some people are bummed about that aspect, but again, GW is doing what it can to give you a fairly decent launch experience. Depending on the success of the different armies and of the system itself, they're going to invest more. So just look at the Heresy as a roadmap for that, you know, as a blueprint, rather not a roadmap, as a blueprint. You play Heresy, you talk about Heresy, and you buy stuff. You know, you share your enthusiasm for it, not just with each other. You build your communities, you share everything, you share stuff with GW, and you do the same thing with the old world. And you know, 5 years down the line, we could have the same thing. New armies, new factions, new units, all plastic, very little in the way of resin, and you know, Bob's your uncle, as I say. So, anyways, guys, so this was all the reveals. It was a great time. I loved that they platformed Heresy so hard by giving it the place of special importance as the final thing they revealed, and it was so big, so many new units that the battle groups box will be there to launch. It's going to be a great start to the army, and I believe from what I read, it's going to be some anywhere from like 500 to 600 points by itself. So multiple boxes, they're going to have value, especially if you're a new player, and even if you are a returning player. A lot of stuff you can still use. It's plastic, so take it all away, guys. And I'll hopefully see you very soon for another video. There's a lot more stuff I'll have coming up. I've been a little slack, I know, just been dealing with a lot of health stuff. Still have a bit of a bad throat again after my previous 5-week incident. So see you guys soon, very soon. Cheers.